characters, etc., that they've made, and anybody can download. And they enjoy making this as much as they enjoy playing with it, and it makes it very deep and personal to them. But if we look at what they're making and kind of the quality of it, to be honest, really most of it's crap. We get this basically power law distribution here. Some of it's okay, but we have a few people that are actually quite good. We'll take these tools and make really good things. And so this is kind of one of our challenges, is we want to kind of increase the right side of that curve there. Now, looking at kind of the history of game development and how many people were applying to these things, the first game I did, it was just me. I wrote the game, the manual, the music, everything. And the next game I did about 5 years later took about 4 people. And the next game, about 10. Next game. Next game. So this has been the trend in computer games for team sizes. If you look at the kind of dark computers on top, that represents the content development. In other words, the fixed assets like art, animation, sound. And you can see that that section of the team is increasing faster than the code section by far. And if we extrapolate this trend out to like 2050, it's going to take about 2.5 million people to make a game, and it's going to cost $500 billion. So clearly, we can't just keep going with that trend. What's also happening is that as we've doubled the amount of time, effort that we put into a game, the value the player is getting isn't double. It's in fact diminishing returns. So we're fighting a losing battle kind of on that end. So we're seeing the players love making stuff, and it's costing us a huge amount to make it. So this is one of the major trends, in games. And I think we're starting to see in other forms of media as well, things like YouTube. Now, another way of looking at games is that they're models. These are little toy models of reality, some representation of reality. And as a kid, I built all these models, very static, plastic models. But now these computer models are dynamic. They show systems over time. Something like SimCity is, in fact, remarkable how simple the underlying model is for it. And it relies heavily on generative systems like Life with, pretty graphics on top of it. But yet these simple little rules come up with very very elaborate, realistic-looking organic behavior. But the player, as they play a game, they're reverse engineering that model in the computer. They're building a more and more elaborate model. They test theories, they try them out, and as they learn to play the game better, they're building a more and more elaborate model. So in some sense, we're actually building a model in the player's head. That's the real model we're building. The computer game is just a compiler for that model. It's a way to help the person build a more elaborate model in their head. Now, what's interesting now is we're finally getting to the point where we have the ability to start doing the reverse. That is, have the computer start building a model of the player. By observing what the player is doing, get a better and better sense of what the player is good at, what interests them, what they're drawn toward, what their goal structures are, what story they're trying to tell or play out in the game. And in some sense, you can look at a game as kind of a landscape, of challenge, reward, etc., goal states. And the players are moving across that landscape. And in fact, we're actually mapping these landscapes now. This is 1,000 people playing The Sims across 3 metrics that we measured every day that they played The Sims, where they moved in that kind of phase space or that possibility space in the game. So we're actually able to measure things like this and get trends, where players tend to congregate, where they tend to diverge, what goal states they tend to head towards. And we can learn a lot from that. We can also look at things like when they buy stuff in games, what things that they tend to buy preferentially, what sort of social interactions or relationships they form in online games, what sort of social dynamics they encourage with other players. All these things are measurable, and that's interesting because games are a formalized kind of environment that in normal life it's really hard to measure these things, but in a game this stuff is already formalized, so it's very easy to capture the metrics from that. So we've got lots of player-created content coming, and we have the ability for the computer to start building a model of each player individually. Now, the third thing that we're really looking at is back to this curve here. How can we give the players more powerful tools? What we really want to do is take the right side of this curve and kind of stretch it up and increase that area over there. So the stuff that the players are making isn't just more stuff, but it's better stuff that we can then kind of share with other players and even give them more value. So we're not fighting this war of content where we're having to develop more and more stuff, but the players themselves are developing it, which they enjoy doing. They love doing that. So we've been looking at things like, toys, basically. Very standard, easy to use toys as metaphors. What are simple systems that players can kind of interact with, they're comfortable with? And basically, how do we take those things and bring them into a process that replicates what our artists are now spending their time doing? We have these skilled professionals that are doing modeling and animation, sound work, etc., texturing. And it's turning out that a lot of this stuff can be automated through generative processes. And computers are getting powerful enough, and we're